Good morning. Hi, everybody. Hi, guys. It's me again. Look, I didn't even get to dry my hair today this morning because I was up really early with Bailey. Bailey bribed Mr. Wansel and he let her out of her kennel and then she wouldn't go back in and he had to go to work, but he forgot to put her outside to go potty. So then she had an accident in the house and I've been cleaning that up and oh boy. So anyway, it's been a long morning already. All right, but do you know what this weekend is? Yeah, you're right. It's Easter. So I thought for today's story, I'm going to read you a bunny story. The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. And this one is illustrated by Cindy Zakaris. So that's what I'm going to read today. Here we go. Once upon a time, I love when stories start that way. There were 4 little rabbits. Their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. "Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the fields or down to the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. Now, run along and don't get into mischief. I am going out." Soon as you tell somebody not to do something, what do? Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella, and she went through the wood to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. Where did Peter go? But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. First he ate some lettuces and some French beans, and then he ate some radishes, and then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But around the end of the cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop, thief!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages and another shoe among the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have gotten away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net. Look, he got caught in the net and got caught by the large buttons of his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. So they're trying to cheer him on. "You can do it. You can get out of there, Peter." Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter. But Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind, and rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not had so much water in it. And I can still see his ears. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hiding underneath a flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Presently, Peter sneezed. Ka-choo! Mr. McGregor was after him in no time and tried to put his foot down upon Peter, who jumped out of a window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter. He went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Also, he was damp from sitting in that can. He was wet. After a time, he began to wander about, lippity, lippity, not very fast, and looking all around. I wonder if he'll be able to get out. He found a door in the wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorsteps carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it was alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. He went back towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scratch, 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 scratch. Peter scattered underneath the bushes. But presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could along a straight walk behind some black currant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped under the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and the shoes for a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. Is it working though? I don't think it's really working. Those birds know him, know Peter. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon this nice, soft sand of the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. Oh, so he's done this before. I'm sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter. 1 tablespoon to be taken at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper because he ate too much junk in the garden. Well, my friends, I know you're not being naughty like Peter Rabbit, and I hope the Easter Bunny comes to visit. And I hope you have a nice long weekend. You won't see me tomorrow. Tomorrow was supposed to be a regular day off of school. So I will see you again on Monday. Bye and have a good Easter. Be nice to your parents.